Welcome back to Your Wellness Matters, because you matter to God, and we're talking about adult dyslexia. And if you've missed my other video, which will come on immediately after this video, to give you a background on how I was assessed as a dyslexic in my 50s, please go and watch that. And so one other symptom I suffer with is that affects relationships, and that is unable to absorb a conversation, particularly if it's moving really, really fast. And if people have, I've lived in different countries of the world. I've had to learn to listen to all types of accents, and behind those accents are things called nuances, those things that aren't really said. They're implied, but they aren't said, and you sort of have to guess what the person is actually saying. And if you're within that culture, of the same culture as the person speaking, you know automatically what those nuances are. But if you're not of that culture, you haven't got a clue, and there's a lot of guesswork. Now, when you're dyslexic, that becomes even harder, because even when it's a person of your own culture, the nuances are hard to pick up. You know, you rely as a dyslexic on body language and face expressions, and I learned that very young. As I said, I didn't know I was dyslexic until I was in my 50s, but I knew that I was finding it difficult to understand what people were saying. I was asking people to repeat themselves, and they go, "What? Don't you understand? You're deaf or something?" You know, they used to get told. And it was just that I wasn't be able to process their meaning. I could hear what they were saying, but just like the words on a book, it's difficult to process the meaning. You read the words, but the meaning, particularly textbooks, not so much novels, because you can put your own spin on it, it doesn't matter. But if you're trying to really learn something of factual nature, then that you have to know the meaning of the words, the meanings of the sentences, the meanings of the paragraph, and it's the meanings that the dyslexics miss. And so when you're in a conversation, the same thing happens. You can miss the meanings. And so I always would look at a people's face. I still do. Even in church, I'm better off looking at the preacher's face when we do prayers. And if one person is leading the prayers, always look at them so I can follow them. If I close my eyes, it is just easy just to drift away and not to grasp the meaning. So very young, I learned to really look at people when they're speaking. Before I learned to control it, I was accused of staring at people. I go, "No, I'm just listening to what you are saying, because I'm trying to grasp the meaning of what they are saying." But later on, of course, you learn not to stare so much, but you concentrate a little bit more. I like to see people's mouths moving. Nothing wrong with my hearing. I'm 70 years old. 6 months ago, I had a hearing test, 100%, apart from the tinnitus that I suffer because I got arthritis in my neck, because in my gymnastic years, I've had got neck injuries, and it's left me with arthritis and tinnitus, which has got worse as I got older, of course. But apart from that, my hearing is perfect. So it's nothing to do with hearing. It's to do with grasping the meaning of words. This may apply to you, particularly if you're in a group of people and the conversation is going around, and when there's banter, there's one from to another, and it's like trying to follow it. It's like watching a tennis ball and trying to grab that tennis ball in mid-flight. It's really difficult, because that person says something, you're trying to grasp their meaning, and so you end up really quiet. And even my family used to say in social gatherings, "Oh, you're so quiet." My mother, at one stage, my parents had a lot of parties in their house, when I was probably in my mid-teenagers to young adulthood in those years. My mother was an art teacher, and and my dad was in politics, so they were very social at that time. So they had a lot of parties, quite regular, and we went to a lot of parties, and of course were invited, and that included beach barbecues and things like that, which I did go to. But I used to sit there and say nothing much, and I remember my mother. She says, why don't you participate? You just look so unhappy, and I couldn't say why because I didn't know I was dyslexic, and I couldn't put into words that I don't have a clue what you guys are talking about. It's like you're like in a foreign, you're in your own country that you were brought up, and you don't understand what's going on. It's really stressful. It is really stressful. You don't know how to deal with it. So what do? You withdraw. And then when I was a teenager, I rebelled. Not that wasn't the only reason why I rebelled, but you do, because you don't know how to react. You don't know how to react because you don't know what you're dealing with. And this may be something that affects you. If it does, if you haven't been assessed as a dyslexic, please go and get yourself assessed. Just Google it, wherever it is in your area, dyslexic assessment. Don't rely on guesswork. Don't assess yourself because you're not qualified and I'm not qualified to assess yourself as dyslexic. You may think, well, I could be. Let's go and get it checked out by the experts, because then it's the experts that would help you to understand how it works with you and to give you the tools. Well, I hope this video has been of help to you. And if your relationships are affected, this may be why. Let me know down in the comments if any of this resonates with you whatsoever, if you see yourself in these scenarios. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and please share with those that you think that may be of help, this video may be of benefit in. And remember that your wellness matters because you matter with God. You matter to God, and live life. Live every day in faith, hope, and love. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.